Let's start with this Bob Myers story because I feel like this one, I think it's big, and I think a lot of people aren't really talking about it as much because obviously, it's boring talking about GMs or coaches, um, basically anybody that's not the players. But here's what the story goes on to say about Bob's expiring contract without an extension. The Golden State Warriors are the NBA's defending champion, and they won the 4 out of the last 8 NBA finals, which is actually crazy to think about. But the team's architect is running out this season without a new deal. Warriors president of basketball operations Bob Myers is on an expiring contract, and the teams haven't been able to come to an agreement extending his deal. Myers refused to discuss the status beyond saying, "My entire focus is on the season." Uh, Golden State owner and CEO Joe Lacob said, "We love Bob and hope he's here for a long time, aka we're probably not going to re-sign you again." Myers was originally hired as an assistant GM, and of course, we obviously know his past. So, with that being said, both Brad and Pete, is this a big deal that Bob Myers is basically, I would say, out the window? Unless, there's a contract extension coming down the line. I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. So I think this is his final hurrah. Is this a big deal if Bob Myers leaves?
Yeah, I'd say it's a big deal. It's pretty much like Pete said the other day in our group chat, like we're kind of seeing the end of the dynasty of the Warriors. It's like their last dance, you know? And with Bob Myers, the real issue there is the reason he's not getting an extension is probably because the rosters he's built haven't been that good since Jerry West left. I want to say like Jerry West was like the shadow GM, just
I
secretly
couldn't
making
agree
all the
more,
good
Brad.
signings. Yeah, like I
Jerry
mean, you
West
can
is the most
see it
underrated
too.
part of this dynasty.
Exactly. And you can see it with how he built the Clippers roster full of good, talented players. Even without their two stars, they're able to stay afloat usually. And then with the Warriors, ever since he left, Bob Myers signings have been terrible. At one point, Dragon Bender was on the team. Like, what are we doing here, guys? Like, if you just look at those rosters since he left, it is bad. That's why, and his draft picks, like, can you imagine if the Warriors had Franz Wagner instead of James Wiseman? They
Oh
had to
yeah,
send their number
Woo.
two pick down to the G League. That is bad. That's like really
Lamelo.
bad. Or if they had LaMelo, yeah, someone who was the more obvious choice, even like that's just he's a dream fit next to Stephen Clay.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think I remember seeing that alert for that story and being like, oh, this was probably what was going to happen considering all the rosters he's built that have been
Mhm.
terrible in the last like 4 years, and even
Yeah.
this roster is underwhelming. Should have retained an important vet like GP2 or Otto Porter Jr.
Yeah, this one's pretty tough. I actually kind of have a little, leave it to me to have a theory about something. I mean, that's kind of what I do around here.
Mhm.
That's all I'm good for around this channel. Regardless, my point here, I actually kind of get the suspicion that, based on Joe Lacob, the owner of the Warriors, what we know about him is he is always trying to put together a championship roster. That's what we've seen since he's taken over this team. Um, Bernie, I'm getting an echo from you. Sorry about that, brother. Um, so with Joe Lacob, I think he's literally always trying to compete. Always wanting to put the best team out that's possible for him. Uh, how he does it is not necessarily the point, but that is the goal, right? So I think one of the things that's interesting about this season is that all of these end dates are aligning for all the big pieces other than Steph Curry, right? Like Steph Curry, they know it doesn't matter with Steph. We're keeping Steph until eternity. Like that's our guy, right?
Right.
But the players, Draymond, Clay, and then you have the GM Bob Myers. And I have a strong suspicion that this is like the ultimate wait and see approach, right? Leave it on all of these parties involved to either do something with it or not and see what happens at the end of the season. And I don't really necessarily think it's guaranteed that Bob Myers doesn't come back because it isn't like he hasn't led them to 4 championships in a certain way. I don't necessarily think he's responsible for it. Like you're saying, Brad, I think Jerry West has a lot to do with the personnel that they've had and in terms of their main players. Jerry West is the guy, right? That is kind of one
Hmm.
of the things that he'll never get the credit for that he deserves. But I do think there's a chance Bob Myers stays. But this is certainly important because it shows that
Mhm.
it's not as simple as, you've won in the past, we're keeping you indefinitely, which shows a certain level of like we're pushing forward regardless. You know,
Yeah.
if you want to grab the reins and keep your job, go make a trade, go make some deals, and get us another championship or get us in contention at least. But I do think last night is going to throw some people off the scent of this Warriors team. I don't know about you guys. I know the Celtics really they 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 dumped the bed, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean,
But
we were without two role players that could have helped this team. Not trying to make
Always.
They didn't
excuses.
have Wiggins, bro. Come on.
Yeah, but they didn't have Robert Williams or Al Horford. That's a huge blow to the Celtics. Not saying that it's like the biggest deal, but it's still
well, one thing too, Bernie,
Should have
in your
been a win
favor.
for them, though.
One thing in your favor, Bernie. The Warriors literally were sitting guys leading up until this game. You know, getting their main players rest leading up into this. And that is not what the Celtics have been doing. The Celtics have been going balls to the walls every single game so far this season. All their players are playing. So I do think a lot of it has to do with just like how well rested the players were in a certain sense. And I'm not going to say that that's all JT was not good last night. Tatum was really poor in a lot of ways. Like that, I'm not making any excuses, qualms about it. They blew it. They should have won regardless. But it's not like they were both coming into it fully on the same level, prepared. I don't know. I still have my same suspicions about both of these teams. I think the Celtics are the best team in the league on a night in, night out basis. And I think the Warriors can compete with the best on a night in, night out basis, but they're old. Like they're old. You are not going to get that level of Clay every night. We've seen it all season. It happens every so often. Most nights, that is not what Clay is giving you right now. So I do think it's one of those things where they just played their absolute premium Warriors brand of basketball, and the Celtics just didn't have it last night. So 7-game series, I still think the Celtics got the Warriors numbers this season, personally.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing to me about this story between Bob Myers, I think it's between the owner and Bob Myers. It's your classic case and classic story of one guy wants the credit for what happened for this generation, and the other guy wants the credit. I mean, it's just so eerily similar to the Bulls situation with their owner and their GM. You know, a lot of people have their gripes about the GM. I can't remember the dude's name for the Chicago Bulls back in the day.
Jerry Krause?
Jerry Krause, I think. Yeah. Jerry Krause and the owner, like those two always kind of butted heads. And I just feel like maybe these two butted heads a lot towards the later end. I mean, I'm sure, you know, once Kevin Durant left, I'm sure that Bob Myers and Joe Lacob were just at each other's throats at times and just, you know, very passive aggressive to one another because, you know, they didn't think, you know, sometimes you think you're not going to win another championship again when you get rid of a talent like Kevin Durant at that point. And, you know, you have all the faith in the world, but there's times where, you know, these organizations are kind of just like, well, how did we just let a super talented player like Kevin Durant leave? Like that has to be on you. You have to do better at your job to keep our guy here. And I think I think that's what my, you know, obviously no insider information, just, you know, balls to the walls, conspiracy theorist. Just like Pete over here with his theories, right? I just think that to me, I think just these two, it's just an ego trip. I think it happens in every sport. It happens in every organization. There's one guy who thinks he deserves the credit more than the other guy. And I think that that's what we have here. It's a classic case of it. So I'm curious to see if Bob Myers becomes a free agent and signs somewhere else, where that place would be, and you know, how that place would end up becoming. Because I think the thing that will hurt Bob Myers the most is if he goes to a situation where he already has a superstar or someone that's already predetermined. So like if he went to the Orlando Magic, I don't think he would get as much credit as I would say maybe if he went to like I guess he wouldn't go to Utah because Danny's there. Trying to think of which team?
The Lakers.
It's not a bad bet.
I mean, Lakers would be a great shout. I mean, I'm sure he would do a much better job than Rob Pelinka.
Dude, I don't know. Because I think one thing is like he hasn't necessarily done a very good job in recent years. Like, I think that's one of the things about Bob Myers that gets swept under the rug with this team, and maybe that is where this drama is coming from. Like, if you look at how well positioned they were after Kevin Durant left the team, in terms of rebuilding with the picks that they had established. They made that excellent move with the Timberwolves to take D'Lo, turn him into Wiggins and picks. And then you end up with the second overall pick, and you still have all these guys. They have the one down year where, everybody's hurt. They're one of the worst teams in the league. They were perfectly positioned to go grab somebody that could have changed their destiny, right? And, Brad, you brought it up. If they had gotten somebody like Franz Wagner, if they had gotten somebody like LaMelo, like specifically LaMelo, like I think the Wiseman pick is the beginning of the end in terms of this relationship in Bob Myers' tenure, as far as like, this guy, is he really that great? Because in recent years, the drafting has been pretty atrocious. If you look at like how much they need help right now, and you have Moses Moody, Kuminga, and you have James Wiseman. Those dudes are essentially at this point all wasted picks. Whether or not they're actually as bad as they've appeared to be at at certain stretches this year, or the fact that they just can't get on the court isn't really the point. They need to be on the court, but they can't get out there.
Yeah.
That reflects on Bob Myers, I would say.
Yeah. And really quick, Pete, I mean, there's this, and I'm going to show the audience, like, this is an article from a year ago, maybe a year ago, November 12th, 2020. Thompson, Warriors' number 2 pick is the most important in Bob Myers' era.
Yeah.
And,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes to show. I mean, the article talks about James Wiseman to trade down, LaMelo Ball or Anthony Edwards. I mean, if you even would have taken Anthony Edwards or LaMelo Ball, I think he would be in a much better situation, because, I mean, then you have the next generation of players. I mean, that's the thing that, whether we like or dislike and I know that this is, well, I guess we could go Spurs, right? Because Spurs did a great job of this. Well, to a point. I mean, every dynasty ends. But they kind of went from like that David Robertson, Tim Duncan era to then going to the Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker. And then from there, they went to the Kawhi Leonard, Danny Green, Patty Mills, and so on and so forth. And, it's the same thing as the Patriots in the NFL when they had Tom. I know, Tom Brady being the main focal point
Steph
is the reason.
Curry, though. I mean,
Yeah.
Steph is the common denominator. He's the Tim Duncan, he's the Tom Brady.
He is, but the thing is like, after Steph Curry goes, who's like the next person in line for the Warriors? I mean, other than, you extended Jordan Poole because you believe in him like that. Do you believe in Wiseman? Do you believe in, I love Kuminga, but do you believe in Kuminga and Moody, like those guys, after Steph Curry leaves, after Green leaves, after Thompson leaves? Can that team win an NBA championship?
I would say they don't believe in Wiseman at all, especially since they sent him to the G League. But I think they believe in Kuminga a little more. And he's shown some flashes like lately of him being a really, you can see what he can be, like a really, really good defender. And, he's attacking the hoop. We all saw that dunk on Tatum last night.
Oh, yeah. Kuminga's legit. I do think it's important. Like, why are these guys not getting more minutes on a team that's so old and in need of so much? Bernie, we talked about this a lot earlier this season, and I think actually it was a streamer, you were here too, Brad. I think my biggest thing with the Warriors this season is kind of a reflection of their bigger problem, and it's they want their cake and they want to eat it too, so to speak. You're trying to play both sides of the game and sit on both sides of the fence, where you have this old core, you want to pay them and keep them happy, but then you have all these young guys, but they don't really play the balance very well. They don't necessarily all get the right amount of minutes. And I'm not saying I know. I'm not a coach. I don't know anything about that. I'm just saying from my average viewer perspective, they have so many flaws and holes in their night-to-night game. To have these young dudes just sit on the bench that have value to other people I think that's a failure in management. Like, you have to do something with all the things you have. And maybe that's what it comes down to, because we know Joe Lacob wanted them to go get Kevin Durant this summer. We know that. Joe Lacob even was out in the news saying that, in other words, right? If Bob Myers is the reason they're pushing back and holding on to people like Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody, no matter what you think of those guys, Joe Lacob is going to end up being proven right, because Kevin Durant is better than those guys. The sum of those parts don't equal half of Kevin Durant. So if the holdup is a manager, or the GM, in this case,
Yeah.
Bob Myers, saying, no, we'll go with my plan. It is a huge failure on his part to put Steph Curry in the best position to win a championship, because no matter how that Celtics game went, they're not necessarily like where they were last season. And I think that that's pretty safe to say. If you're watching this team most nights, like they're just not there. Like they don't have all the parts necessary. And Jordan Poole, if that's your guy going forward, if that's the next star you want to put next to Steph Curry to win championships for a couple years down the road, I just don't think that's going to happen with Jordan Poole. I'm sorry. I'm not the biggest Poole guy, but he's a pale imitation of somebody like Clay in terms of winning major basketball games. And I don't know. I don't want to get in deep water with the pool party, so to speak. But
Yeah.
Wow.
You're in the shallow end of the pool party.
dude, I'm gonna end up getting drowned in the pool party if I don't watch my tongue.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is going to be a very interesting situation for it all to play out. We obviously don't know the whole story. There could be a lot of different things. And of course, when the 30 for 30 documentary comes out in 20 years, we will find out the real story about what happened with this whole situation. And even with the Warriors themselves when Kevin Durant left. I'm sure a lot of fans are interested in that story. But let us know in the comment section down below, people. What do you guys make of the story? Do you guys think that Bob Myers is someone that you should extend? If you're a team that is looking for a GM, is he someone that your team should hire? Let us know in the comment section down below. And also let us know if you think the Golden State Warriors will win the championship this NBA season. Let us know in the comment section down below. And remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Again, all that stuff helps us tremendously. And we look forward to hearing what you guys have to say about this story.